On April 18, 2021, Aniplex announced their new trading card game and anime franchise Build Divide, which will launch this October with the anime and card game debuting simultaneously. Aniplex is one of the big media companies of Japan, responsible for the planning, production, and distribution of most of the mainstream normal people anime of the past 20 years. I'm talking about the very tippy top of the iceberg, anime for people that have suntans and Facebook pages, only watch dubs, and never looked at a fan wiki in their entire lives, let alone edited one. Demon Slayer, Sword Art Online, Kill la Kill, Madoka Magica, Full Metal Alchemist, Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, Bleach, Naruto, and Rurouni Kenshin. Aniplex is not the company you expect to launch a trading card game, but they are one of the ones that can win the 2020s. Right now, we are in the middle of a golden age of trading card games, the very same golden age that former Card Kingdom CEO Ikeda Yoshimasa predicted 2 years ago in September 2019. In the aftermath of the digital TCG market reaching saturation, with Hearthstone and Shadowverse claiming majority ownership over the available population, publishers are now redirecting back into the analog TCG space, a process accelerated by the coronavirus pandemic, as everyone wants to be at the forefront of retail when the virus is contained. The world is starved for in-person interaction, and that hunger will become the cornerstone of the rebounding TCG industry. Now, why is Aniplex in particular in such a good position? Because while throwing money at your game isn't enough to make it a success, throwing money in the right places is, and Aniplex is doing plenty of that. While the anime series and concept for the franchise as a whole came from novel author Kawamoto Homura and his younger brother Muno Hikaru, the TCG has one very big name involved: Nakamura Satoshi, the game design mastermind behind Dimension Zero, Victory Spark, Weiss Schwarz, and Cardfight Vanguard, who designed every big hit Bushiroad's ever had in Japan. The fact that Nakamura is working with Aniplex is huge. His characteristic style of game involves reflexive mechanics, where the more one player falls behind, the more power they're given to strike back, leading to elements like the Smash Zone in Dimension Zero and Counterblast in Vanguard, where the damage you take becomes a kind of energy you can spend on effects. The players in his games can rarely ever be truly counted out until the very last point of damage is dealt, because of mechanics like the heal triggers in Vanguard and climax cards in Weiss Schwarz, where a player's damage can be healed or nullified at the last second if that damage turns out to be one of the few cards in their deck with a recovery icon. Nakamura is a former Magic the Gathering pro player from the 90s who has a strong understanding of what makes TCGs fun to play, which is why his games always keep both players in the running as long as possible. He's known to have dissented in the past when publishers have pushed for more power creep or to deliberately unbalance a game. During Vanguard's V-Block before its second reboot, he advocated for a limited fight format, where players would only use lower rarity cards because of how unbalanced the high rarity ones had become, and even tried to push it in tournament play. Given his track record, we have every reason to expect the world from Build Divide. That's not to say his career is totally spotless. Nakamura also designed the game system for Luck and Logic and worked on cards for Dragonborn Rise to Supremacy, both of which were pretty big L's to walk off. But those games were totally out of touch with what Bushiroad's target demographics wanted. The players at the time wanted better support for Vanguard and Buddy Fight, not totally new games, and they didn't have mass appeal either. Aniplex's Build Divide is coming at a time when people are looking for new games to play, and it's a lot better timed coming in October 2021, when most of the other new games launched so early people felt unsafe playing them. The situation in Japan right now with vaccination rates and COVID infections is really bad, with only 20% of the country being fully vaccinated. But in October, the Tokyo Olympics will have already been over for 2 months, and that's the catalyst for a lot of the disinformation and distrust surrounding the vaccine. The difference between launching Build Divide in October 2021 and launching Gate Ruler in December 2020, or Digimon in April 2020, is that people actually have places to go out and play without facing another state of emergency lockdown. Remote play and virtual reality only go so far in an industry where your deck represents a physical investment that gains or loses value on the secondary market based on the tournament performance of its singles. Core players don't feel safe investing in a game they think isn't gonna last, and if core players don't invest, then there isn't a base group for casual players to jump into and get guidance from. Aniplex specifically mentions targeting lapsed TCG players who used to be active but dropped out, as well as new gamers that have never played a trading card game before but are brought in by the anime series. They're also promising to provide a range of organized play targeting both hardcore and casual players. The first booster set, Overture of the Endless War, will launch on October 8th, 2021 and comprise 92 different cards, and the first starter decks, the Witch Laughing in Darkness and the Beast King Raging in Scarlet, will debut that very same day, with 14 different types of cards in each, but 41 total. Aniplex has scouted several A-list card artists on Build Divide, including Cardfight Vanguard illustrator Nin Nin, Battle Spirits artist Ikuyoan, and Wicross illustrator Fumi. Now, while they've been extremely secretive about the actual rules, only revealing them in special limited attendance teaching sessions hosted at 13 card shops across Japan, thanks to certain promotional photos and videos accidentally revealing different parts of the field and card layout, hints given by those that playtested the game at those demonstrations, and information from the anime Build Divide Code Black, we know a fair bit about how the game plays already. Build Divide uses a 4-color system, similar to the color systems found in Wicross, Magic the Gathering, and Battle Spirits. Code Black's protagonist, Kurabe Teruhito, plays black, Banka Sakura plays blue, Munanashi Hiyori and the mystery girl Kika play white, and Enjol Naomitsu plays red. Black and red are the colors used for the first 2 starter decks, and were also used in the game's public playtests, so these appear to be our introductory colors used to get people into the game. Build Divide uses a 10-point life system, with 5 cards from your deck placed into the red zone of the playmat and 5 into the yellow above it. In the anime, this is visually represented by 2 rows of colored stars. When you take damage, those cards are removed from the life area, though we don't know where they're placed after that, if they go to your hand like in Duel Masters, or to the discard pile like in Digimon 2020, or even to the energy zone. Certain cards have effects that activate based on if your life is in the red or yellow zone, and one of the playtesters, Ichinose, implied that cards might have trigger type effects that activate when they're revealed from the life zone, similar to the security effects in Digimon, shield triggers in Duel Masters, or damage triggers in Cardfight Vanguard. Cards in Build Divide have a cost to play them at the top left corner, and this cost is paid for by tapping a row of energy cards at the bottom of the playmat, which players build up over multiple turns, similar to the Mana Zone of Duel Masters or Energy Zones of Nakamura's earlier games, Dimension Zero, Victory Spark, and Rebirth for You. Your Ace unit is placed above your deck and has a corresponding territory, cards with effects specific to its color. For example, the territory for Starter Deck 1, Casino of Doom, randomly kills units in play when used, which supports its corresponding Ace unit, Gambler of Souls Bloom, whose effects revolve around manipulating the graveyard and resurrecting the dead. The territory for Starter Deck 2, Bottomless Great Canyon, gives allied units additional power and a first strike ability called Blitz. Now what does that first strike ability do? I don't know, but they literally use the exact same first strike term from the Japanese Magic the Gathering, Sensei Kogeki, which causes the user to deal all of its damage to its target first, then check to see if it destroys it, rather than dealing damage simultaneously and potentially both getting destroyed. So Build Divide might involve some form of simultaneous battle mechanic that First Strike then interferes with. The starter decks consist of 41 cards each and include 4 copies of the Ace unit, so the speculation right now is that the main deck is only 40 cards in size, and the 41st card is either a territory card that's always available to you but requires a cost to activate, or the inverse, that 1 copy of the Ace unit starts the game already in play. However, the starter decks come with 4 copies of the Ace unit, and you wouldn't need multiple copies unless they started in the main deck. Ichinose couldn't disclose a lot about Build Divide directly because the people that attended the playtest signed a secrecy agreement, but they described the game as very easy to understand, to the point that anyone who has played any TCG at all could grasp it. We've already seen this, with some English speakers taking one look at the field arrangement and saying, "Oh, this is just Dragon Ball Super," while some Japanese players immediately compared it to Gate Ruler. Ichinose felt it was closest to Duel Masters, despite being very different in overall speed, and the chance elements were less than those found in Weiss, Vanguard, and Zex, though still present. They felt that luck didn't have a big impact on the game at all, and discussed the fact that people tend to assume all Yuhodo games from Nakamura's company, will have flipping elements, mechanics like the drive triggers in Vanguard or Weiss Schwarz. They didn't confirm either way if those elements will be in there or not, but reminded their readers that Yuhodo has made a wide variety of games, both with and without. Aside from the basic red and black decks, we've also seen some of the basic blue units revealed, including the Ace unit Claudia and her territory, land battleship Gradmiral. Gradmiral's special ability is supposed to burn the opponent's life directly, and if all of your energy cards are tapped, increases the destructive power of an ally unit and makes it unblockable. The website notes have mentioned that while black manipulates the graveyard, red is good at energy enhancement. And based on what we've seen now, while red and black are good for beginners, blue seems to be a more advanced color, similar to how it is in Magic the Gathering. Let's just hope that it doesn't end up doing absolutely everything like it sometimes does in Magic. Trial caravans for the game will begin August 14th through October 3rd, and while we have no word of any English localization, Aniplex has already committed to the long term for this series, booking its second season to debut in April 2022. Build Divide Code Black is going to air on 13 different channels. Given the amount of effort and money Aniplex is leveraging into this, they seem very serious about creating a long-lasting property. I think the takeaway from this is that the TCG industry is actually very competitive right now, in a way that it hasn't been for several years. It's not just Bushiroad and the Big Three anymore. Yeah, we have some crazy people like Takara just localizing Wicross out of the blue, and they might be sending that game out to die. But we also have bigger names like Bandai and Aniplex in the picture, carving out their own share of the market, bringing in new and lapsed players, and the established names are stepping up their game to compete. There was a time when even Vanguard would sell regardless of quality, and I think the big names really took advantage of the players' goodwill, printing stuff like Zeroth Dragons, Melody, and every version of Luard we've ever gotten. Power creep tends to run rampant during times when the industry is uncompetitive because there aren't many places for players to go if they're unhappy, so publishers can mandate soft rotations where there's no requirement players use the latest cards, but in practice, if your deck isn't from the latest expansion, you're going to go 0-5 in tournament. I would be shocked if a big company like Aniplex did not already have plans in the works for going international with Build Divide, as it seems like a very easy to market IP, classier than Wicross and more marketable than Digimon. No one's going to be calling this a Pokemon ripoff. And that means that Bushiroad, Bandai, Wizards, and everybody else have to be on their best behavior, or they'll see players siphoned off to this new punk that just walked in the door. Will they win the decade? I've got my eye on them, just like I had my eye on Bushiroad way back when they first launched Vanguard as a functional nobody. Basically, nobody back in 2011 thought that Bushiroad was going to be the juggernaut in the market it is today. Aniplex is already a juggernaut in its own market, it's just expanding into a new one. So we'll watch this one as it develops and see how far they go with it.